overall focus of this is Operation Lifesaver, which is the national nonprofit dedicated to crossing and trespasser safety issues of all the railroads in the country. And so we have volunteered this equipment on this railroad today, and we were pleased to have it over here because we certainly have some issues over here that probably other railroads have as well, but maybe ours are a little unique because of the passenger operations that we have here. We have Amtrak operating in the southern part of the state. They have that well in hand as far as gated crossings, both private and public. We don't have those luxuries up in this part of the country yet. So we're operating in a little different scenario, which was more like things operated years ago when there was a lot less vehicular traffic. As far as the train concerns, we'll have a pretty smooth ride, but if you are moving around, just keep in mind you're on a moving train and it can lurch suddenly. Hopefully we won't have to make any emergency stops or anything, but just keep that in mind. You're passing between cars, etc. We think this is the greatest thing in transportation going, and we continue to think that as we see fuel prices going. And we also watch the fact that we don't seem to have any national energy policy where railroads will become a key factor. But I'm convinced, maybe not in my career, but sometime soon, that things are going to start to change. And OL certainly has an increased need and presence because we certainly are having an increased frequency of trains throughout the country because of energy costs. All the railroads not only are running at Class 1 railroads are not only running max, Class 1s are the big railroads, about 6 of them, at maximum capacity, but they're actually running about 15% over their operating capacity right now. And they're trying to find ways to ameliorate that. So Mike, you want to...
Yeah. This is more like a follow-up. Most of you, I think, attended the class that we did in Brunswick a couple of weeks ago, or a couple months ago now, I should say. Just to give you another inside look on really the train as you see. Any one of you guys, now that this train is starting to run on a regular basis between Portland and Rockland, Bill back here is Amtrak Police Department. In the southern part of the state, they're running, from Portland to Boston. Long-term goal is, yes, to bring it up to Brunswick. I can't even tell you when that's going to happen. They're still discussing what they're going to, how they're going to do that, but that is in the works and it's coming. I have a sign-in sheet going around that serves two purposes. One, for our records, and two, I've got to make sure everybody sign in because we have to report a head count to the dispatches that control this train movement on this track, because as you folks, if there ever is a tragedy, you'll be calling for that stuff. Sometimes they don't have seats for all the passengers and they're sitting in the dining cars, they're standing or whatever halfway to Boston. So as you can see, the head counts and stuff are pretty important for us. So if there is a disaster that happens, you folks need to know how many people either to evacuate out of the train or search for. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask. For the wardens back there, you're going to understand what John runs into and every other railroad in the state does. It's the best hunting grounds you can ask for, as far as, you can walk up and down these tracks and see forever and a day. When there is a hunter out there with a loaded firearm, it makes the passengers a little uneasy, even though it is against the law. With the Federal Railroad Administration, I'm dealing a lot with towns like Rockland along this line that has applied for what we call a quiet zone, where they don't have to blow the train whistle. But if they're going to do that, they have to do some other supplemental safety devices. And for Rockland especially, you'll see and how these engineers kind of, twinge a little when they come up to a crossing because, the traffic just doesn't like to obey the current laws that are out there.
They stay off the tracks. They're trespassing. It's private property or state property, depending on which railroad they're on, and it's just illegal to be on the railroad track. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. People running the lights and the crossings, one of the gripes I've always had is there's not enough in the driver's manual about grade crossings. There's not enough questions. Or even if the things are in there, the people go over it, but they never put it on the test.
Back in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, where I'm from,
Oh yeah?
almost hit quite a few school buses
Wow.
with kids on.
One of the bus drivers said, "Well, he says, we don't have to stay in the crossing and stop it. We have no kids on if it's unoccupied." I says, "I've never seen an unoccupied bus run by itself." And they looked at me. I says, "You're on the bus. It's occupied. The driver is an occupant of the bus. As far as I'm concerned, it should stop. Period. No gray areas."
They go through the lights, they hear the horn, they stop right on the crossing, and instead of going right through, they back up. Or they stop when they're on the other side of the crossing.
Yeah.
They do. They actually stop once they're over the tracks.
Coming up to the spot where I hit the ATV last year, they had just put these two private crossings in. Otherwise, I would have hit them because they wouldn't have heard me blowing the horn. I come around this next one, I blew them on for the crossing, came around the curve, and there they were. Sitting on the track. It was stuck on the bridge. You'll see it when we get up there, right around this curve. This is how fast I was going. Come around the curve here, and you'll see a little bridge over a brook. And the wheels that I was stuck in the guardrails. I saw him right here, and that's where he was stuck. I hit him here and put the machine up, pieces of machine up the tree. That crossing just got lights, and they just started putting some lights up on this end with gates. These crossings up here were notorious. We're always hitting cars at them.
Back in Pennsylvania, we were bringing a coal train up the grade, and it's a big, wide crossing. Comes downhill on a straightaway. We were already 3 engines into the crossing, and a lady ran right into the side of the engines. I jumped off, see if she was all right, and she says, "Boy, I live right down the street." She says, "I know these tracks are here, but I didn't know trains run on them." And he hit a tractor trailer too once. I think I told you that story. The guy saw the lights, he was going to wait for us, but he decided to go, and I knew we weren't going to stop. We had a big coal train that threw it into emergency. And I caught him right maybe 3/4 of the way back, took off the back of the trailer. And it was filled with all antique furniture. He had 1 block to go to deliver that. And he wouldn't wait for that train. 5 minutes, not even 5. And he said if I had my other truck, I would have beat you.
Well, if we have a long enough tangent, the next 59 miles an hour is supposed to be the max for the class of track, class 3, but the FRA set the speed restrictions. They came along with their, I think it's a T1000 car, and they went over the whole line and they told us the curve restrictions, 40, 45. Right now we're going 46. Problem we have here is some of the crossings are the old style crossings where you have insulated joints for the lights to come on, and they're set for 25 miles an hour. So even though FRA says the track's good for 45, you've got to hit the crossing because it has to allow 20 seconds from the time the lights turn on until the train hits the crossing. The ones we just went over and the next 3 or 4 crossings, all the new crossings that are going in, they're predictive circuits on them. They actually know how fast the train's going. If a freight's going on it and it's going 25 miles an hour, the gates come down later because it takes that much longer for the train to get to the crossing. The passenger train's going like this, it knows that the train's going 45 and brings the gates down sooner. If the train stops, the gates will go up. So you don't have the thing like in Wisconsin where the lights are on. They'll clear up after the train stops. When the train starts moving again, it knows it's moving and puts them back down. I have no idea how it works. As long as it does. But I like it because you can go track speed for the crossings. And it doesn't matter whether it's a freight or a passenger train.
Now you use sand even, that's not just a wintertime thing.
No, I use it all year. You gotta remember, you only got part of the wheel about the size of the dime that's actually on the rail at any time. And that's what makes the railroad so efficient, fuel-wise.
Low friction.
You'll hear a chirping every once in a while. That's the alerter. That's just to make sure I'm awake. I don't have to steer, so you know you can go to sleep. I have to, if I'm not moving something, doing some kind of action, the alerter starts. It starts chirping real low. The light goes on a bit, and it gets louder, it gets faster, and then I have to respond to it by hitting the button or doing something. And it resets. If I don't respond, it sets the brakes and shuts the train down. writing the ATVs on the bank like this, you know. This year, it's been really nuts because we've never had ATVs ride in some of these places we got them this year. I don't know if it's just that so many people are buying them now or what it is.
Actually, ATV sales have gone down because of the laws have become so restrictive.
They can keep going down as far as I'm concerned. You know, even snowmobiles, they're out here, but they don't leave a print, the snowmobiles. You know, they shouldn't be out here anyway because they're going to get killed. And they do have a tendency, in some places, of course, they pack it down enough to make it ice and it'll derail the train. Just a little bit of ice, even in a grade crossing, because the flange on the wheel is only this deep. So all you got to do is pick it up an inch and you're off the track. And you get highway sand in there, plus the snow in it. It gets wet and thaws in the daytime, and then at night it freezes up again. When you go over it with the wheel, you're actually compacting it and making it harder, just like steel.
They're having a lot of derailments up there in Greenville. They ever figure out what exactly was causing that?
Bad track.
Just a bad.
Really. Yeah, they're putting a lot of welded railing up there. They've got a lot of curves up there, and they put welded railing. They're doing that now. But the Bangor to Rooster was kind of down in the heel there for a while there towards the end.
What do you mean by welded rail?
Huh?
What do you mean by welded
This
rail?
is welded rail. There's no joints. Have you heard any clickety-clack?
Oh, I have not.
1,500 foot lengths of rail. Then they weld those together. We had 5 miles. There's 5 miles of rail on a welded rail train when they brought it in. Because I worked all the work trains. I unloaded it all with the crew. Another couple of weeks, these will be working, thank God.
Welded track. That's why you don't have that.
There's no clickety-clack. Yeah. Smoother riding, and it's really treacherous in the wintertime if you're on the track and you don't belong there. Because when the snow's on the track, and without the joints even, you couldn't hardly hear it with the joints, but when there's snow on the track and you're on welded rail with a train, you're on the track walking, you can't hear that train sneaking up and back at you until it's too late. You're a hood on them before you get out of the way.
Now, is the only advantage of the welded track the ride quality, or is it a safer track too?
It's safer, it's welded. You don't have the maintenance of the joints, the bolts, joint bars, but you have to anchor it real well because welded rail in the heat expands longitudinally. It's got no place to go, it goes out. So you'll get kinks, sun kinks.
Right.
So that's why you gotta have plenty of ballast shoulder. That's why the ATVs screw it up so bad. Because when they chew up the ballast shoulder, everything has a purpose on the track. The ties hold the rail engaged. Tie plates are on top of the ties so that the rail doesn't cut the ties. Rail anchors snap onto the rail on either side of the ties so that the ties can't move. Then you put the ballast on the track and you tamp it, squeeze it, and all that stone keeps the track from moving too, and the shoulders are supposed to be wide enough so that they can't kick out either. So when you start riding the ATVs on the shoulder and you eat it away like down there, you can see which is bare, we get the same problem in Topsom. Then the track can slop around. If you're going into a curve with a big train, just the force of the train will push the track out. Another problem we have this time of the year is the hunters. This section, they set their blinds up, pointing down the track. Come around the corner down here, and you're looking at a rifle. There's a tides right up there. trouble out here all the time. I come out of that ledge cut and I got guys fishing out here. Come screeching halt. Usually I'll stop, I'll call the conductor and tell them to open the trap up. They'll run ahead of me and try to get into these standoffs.
Yeah.
Had one guy a couple of weeks ago running ahead of me and he fell down right between the rails. I got stopped. I get him on the train and I call Lincoln County and I have a cruiser down there waiting for him. Yep. It looks like Mr. Schutz's vehicle.
We enjoyed making this Train Time show. Thank you for watching.